J-Powell is not just waging a battle in the markets, but also with consumers' minds. And this second fight is becoming increasingly challenging. Non-economists usually have a vague idea of how monetary policy is supposed to work. It is much harder, after all, to ascertain what a 75 basis point rate rise really means than to interpret the price of petrol displayed at a gas station. 75 basis points actually means 0.75%. Economists might argue that the public tends to be very bad at forecasting. Fed officials would appear to agree. The governor's dot plot forecasts, created with underlying technical models of supply and demand, imply marked future falls in inflation rates. Now, to understand why the public is bad at forecasting, consider the work of behavioral economists such as Mayer Statman, who have studied the psychology of price rises around the world. As Statman told an inflation symposium in New York this week, consumer reactions to price trends are often distorted by 5 psychological factors. The first one is framing. Since consumers normally rely on yardsticks like prices to parse or break down economic trends, they feel disorientated if inflation distorts the dollar yardstick, according to Statman. Thus, they often succumb to the so-called money illusion, where they only focus on nominal prices and rates, not real inflation adjusted ones. The second factor is fear, which is fueled by this disorientation. The third is availability, or the ease with which data can or cannot be seen. And the fourth and fifth issues are confirmation and representativeness shortcuts. These include the tendency for people to only notice information that fits their pre-existing ideas and to interpret data by extrapolating from the recent past into the future. All 5 patterns matter right now. The speed at which inflation has surged has disorientated many people. Moreover, consumers are being bombarded by some highly available, that is visible numbers, such as the 60% year-on-year rise in petrol prices. It is natural for them to use that as a proxy for the wider inflation rate, however inaccurate and projected forward out of fear. Then there is the confirmation bias issue. A Pew survey released in May of this year showed that 70% of Americans view inflation as a very big problem, topping other concerns by a wide margin. However, there is a stark partisan split. Although 84% of Republicans are alarmed about inflation, only 57% of Democrats are. Never mind that they presumably face the same price rises. It is easy to explain this. Republican leaders are constantly talking about inflation because they want to attack the White House. That in turn shapes consumer perceptions. This matters. As Robert Shiller, another behavioral economist, notes, the narratives we spin for ourselves about the economy not only reflects economic reality, they shape it in a self-fulfilling manner, even if those narratives do not match macroeconomic models. So, what can Powell do? On Wednesday, the 15th of June 2022, he tried to reframe the popular narrative by constantly altering the phrase price stability and stressing the Fed's commitment to it. So, in essence, he himself is also trying to change our perception and also ultimately change the way we go about inflation in a small or big way. However, he also acknowledged that the central bank is now tracking so-called headline inflation, that is, the gross number which reflects consumers' spending, instead of just core inflation, the seasonally adjusted figure that it typically prefers. This is a sign that the Fed knows public perceptions are important. But the hard reality is that Powell will struggle to win the battle for people's minds, never mind the markets, while petrol at $5 a gallon is still a readily available number. Moreover, energy costs cannot be controlled by 75 basis point rises or a 0.75% rate rise. That is why he is now determined to keep the wage growth under control, even at the cost of higher unemployment. And it is why America is probably sliding towards a bout of stagflation, even if this is not a word that Powell himself would use. And stagflation is low growth and rising inflation. So this is the piece this is the piece that was relied on in this video. So you see the link to it in the description box below, and it was written by Gillian Tate. Gillian Tate is a columnist with the Financial Times. Okay, so see what you make of all of these things, and especially the fact that we are being influenced by some politicians, and all the stuff we hear about inflation, it tends to affect our perception about what inflation is really all about and how it really matters, and whether it is really high or low. I mean, it determines our ranking of inflation in the broad scheme of things. Okay, so thank you once again for watching this video.